Welcome to the Note to Self podcast. I'm your host, Zoe. I'm a certified professional life coach, serial entrepreneur, verified YouTuber, and published author. On this podcast, you can expect actionable tips, reflections, and inspiration to live your best, most fulfilling life. So, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Note to Self. Today's note to self is how writing a book changed and saved my life. And I'm sharing this story with you today because I'm presently launching my Write Your Story course, which is a DIY course, meaning you can go at it at your own pace to turn that idea that you have for a story, a book, whether it be fiction, nonfiction, a guidebook, into something tangible, to really make your dreams come true, to really make it happen, and to remove it from that place at the back of your mind as the what if or one day. It's today, and this is your sign that the world needs your story. The world needs your book. And there's so much magic that comes from writing a book. And a lot of that magic is the experience that you have with yourself, the journey that you take within yourself in writing a book. So today I'm going to share with you the story about how writing a book, specifically my first book, Beauty and the Breakdown, changed and saved my life. So the story begins taking us way back into a past life within this present life. That's sometimes how I like to term it, when you change and evolve so much. Sometimes when you think about those previous versions of yourself, it feels like a past life, but within the same life. It was still Zoe, but a different level of Zoe. So at the time that I decided to write a book, I was leaving my corporate job. I had bought my one-way ticket to Italy, and I was so ready to get out of the corporate world, get out of the hustle, get out of the big city of Toronto, and follow my dreams and my heart to Rome, Italy. And I remember this so incredibly clearly. I was on one of my last days at the office, and I was facing a lot of resistance, a lot of backhanded comments, and just discomfort from my bosses around my decision to leave and buy that one-way ticket to Italy. And I could see it for what it was, definitely, but I just want to acknowledge and validate anyone who is presently making a life transition and facing discomfort from the matrix, if you will, from different people. It can feel uncomfortable, but just remember that desire in your heart is divine. The choices that you feel so guided and so pulled to make, they are for you, they are meant for you, and they are meant to happen, and you will be supported in making them happen. But what had happened was I was leaving my job, and my boss said, "So you're just going to go to Italy and babysit for a year," because I was leaving my corporate job and to au pair. That was my transition, or my bridge into becoming a entrepreneur. And I don't know where this came from inside of me. It felt like one of those moments where the intuition took over and spoke for me. It wasn't word vomit. It was something beyond me that said, "I'm actually going to write a book," or "I'm going to write a book." And then I left. And I remember thinking, who said that? Like, that was me, but I'm definitely going to write a book. That was the inner knowing was, yeah, I'm totally going to do that. And so a few weeks later, I found myself in magical Rome, Italy, and I decided to start to write my story. And this specifically was the story of getting out of my abusive relationship that I was in for 1.5 years. And the journey that I took 12 months to really following my heart and my dreams to Rome, Italy, how I made it happen, and every obstacle that presented itself along the way. You guys have probably heard me talk about the bridge of incidents before, but I'm going to touch on this for a moment. Is when you set an intention for yourself, you send a vibration out into the universe, and then a series of events occur. Even if they're seemingly unrelated, they are all actually a part of the journey to get you to where you want to be. So when I got out of my abusive relationship, I set the intention that I was going to live my best life. I was going to take control of my life, and I was going to live it for me. I was going to choose myself. And never again would I let someone do those things to me, that I would heal. and that I would move on and that I would create the life that I'd always imagined, an extraordinary life, one of travel, one of living in Europe, living in Italy, living in Rome, the city of my dreams. But also in that year, I lost my job. Also in that year, I got into a plane accident. There was so many obstacles that presented itself in that year. I remember thinking, this could be a movie. This could be a show. Like, I'll have to write a book about this one day. And so when I got to Rome, that's what I started to do. And little did I know this would be such an incredibly healing, profound part of my journey. Because the truth was, when I got out of that abusive relationship, I carried a lot of shame. I kept it a secret. I couldn't bring myself to tell the closest people around me and my parents what I had been through. For those of you who have faced abuse or been in abusive relationships, I want you to know that I see you and I hear you and I feel you. It's a very challenging place to be when you disconnect or you leave that relationship, because for me, it felt like I just was questioning, how did I create that? How did I manifest that? How did that come into my life when I've only ever focused on being a positive person? The truth was, there was a lot within my subconscious that I just wasn't aware of. But in the journey of writing my book, I was able to heal myself by reflecting on everything that I overcame and how fucking powerful I am. This episode is now explicit. But reflecting on the journey and everything it took to reclaim myself, build myself up from the ashes, rise like a phoenix, I'm telling you, it was exactly what I needed. Like, I felt like a fucking badass. Writing my story, I'm like, yes, like, wow. It's so often that we focus so much on the future and where we're going that we forget about where we've been. Writing your story, if it's a personal one, can be a very powerful journey into worthiness, of really solidifying with and sitting with how worthy you are, of accessing your next level and accessing the life of your dreams. And what's interesting about this point in time of writing my story is I actually couldn't afford therapy. And like I said, I struggled to tell anyone what happened to me. So this book, writing, became my therapy. Writing is incredibly healing. Once you discover what your medium is, like it could be writing, it could be speaking, it could be singing, you can heal yourself. And so this is what I began to activate within me. It was something I didn't even know was possible for me. So writing about that year and all of the challenges and all of the things that I overcame was deeply healing for me. It allowed me to step into a new level of worthiness. It allowed me to acknowledge myself, and it allowed me to become my best friend in a whole new way, because I saw like, wow, all of this had purpose. And me writing about it now, things are clicking, things are healing, things are transmuting. And I am free from my past now. I am healing me with the power of myself and with the power of acknowledgement and awareness. And now that book is packaged into something that can empower other people and be of service to others. And that thought in itself is just so incredibly beautiful. I remember I chose the path of self-publishing that book versus going with the publisher who I actually naturally manifested as I was writing this book, right? It was like as I was writing this book and accessing this new level of power and having so much fun with it, the source naturally provided opportunities. And then as my story goes, I published books after that were available in bookstores and available on Amazon, all of which will be linked down below for you guys to check out, as well as write your story. But there was just so much power that was accessed. I was accessing a new vibration in myself, and thus I was receiving the reflection of that in the matrix. And in sharing my story and publishing that, there were levels of it that felt very vulnerable, but I just knew that if this book helped one person, whether it was somebody who has come out of an abusive relationship to feel seen and heard and not alone, whether it was someone who had the desire to move abroad and just needed that extra push of inspiration, whether it was someone who just felt like life just kept handing them lessons, but they were still going for it. Like, I just knew that if this could help one person, that's everything to me. And what a gift it was to put that book out into the world and still receive such beautiful and positive feedback on it. A rising tide lifts all boats. That's a quote that I absolutely love. I'm going to repeat it for you again. A rising tide lifts all boats. As I stepped into this new level of myself, giving myself full permission to write a book, to become an author, to share my story with the world, that ignited something in every single person who decided to read it, who decided to engage with it, or who even just perhaps came across my content and saw, oh, wow, she wrote a book. Sharing your story ignites the world in ways you cannot even comprehend. Think about a book that changed your life, a book that perhaps helped you let go, inspired you about your realm of possibilities, or healed you. That is what you will do for another in writing your story. And with that, I am going to invite you all once more into Write Your Story, which is my DIY course from getting that idea in your mind into a story that can ignite the lives of the people around you and people that you don't even know. You wouldn't have a desire to write a book if it wasn't divinely planted within you in source, right? You wouldn't have what it takes to write a book if you didn't have the desire to write one. Source wants to flow through you. God, source, angels, universe wants to support you. They're knocking at the door, reminding you that you have a story that will change this world, that will lift the vibration of this planet. And you wouldn't have this desire once again if it was not meant for you to pursue. You are magical. You are inspiring. You are radiant. You are powerful beyond measure and belief. And I invite you to write your story. Write that idea in your mind that's floating around in the crown chakra. Let's bring it down into this world. This is my stress-free, self-paced course to transform your magical potential into a life-changing story. So Write Your Story will be linked down below, and I encourage you to sign up because I cannot wait to read your story. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for listening to Note to Self. If you enjoyed this episode, please help me out by rating and reviewing this show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If my energy is resonating with you and you feel the call to work with me, there are an abundance of ways to do so. I offer one-to-one life coaching programs, mastermind containers, and DIY courses, all of which are available through my website, zoearielpoulsen.com. Until next time, take note of all the abundance that surrounds you as you make the most of this game called life.